top 8 for the PPG Case tournament, Colossal Warfare Super Release. This is it. The battle for all the marbles. We have Andrew Calderon, GP, Las Vegas champion, legacy champion. So one of the most skilled formats ever in Magic. Actually, one of the top 5 legacy players in the entire world. Pro Tour competitor. Biggest event of that kind. And then we have Gabriel Alonso. This guy is a PPG Elite Patron member, actually. So this is a guy who is committed to the services of our professional team, and he's been taking multiple courses and multiple sessions with our players. Most recently, last night, getting off a session with myself, we were testing some decks and getting him prepped up for this event. He is a local, so that's pretty interesting. He's just somebody who's committed to getting better and somebody who really wants to just be one of the elite players in this game. And he's already showing it with a top 8 performance at a super release over some of the most talented players in the world. So super exciting to see him in his first top 8 here at PPG. And we have, in the rest of the bracket, I think we have the bracket here somewhere. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. I have the bracket right here. And in the bracket, we have Jonathan Rodriguez playing Super Saiyan 3 Blue Control. That's the deck that we saw a little bit earlier. He was just playing blue good stuff. And he was playing Bergamo in the main deck. He was playing Beerus in the main deck. He was playing Beerus, the 4-drop Beerus. Yeah, the most interesting deck for sure. A Brew and a Yu-Gi-Oh player at his first Dragon Ball event, making top 8. And then we got Ronald Duarte playing Super Saiyan 3 Frost. That's another interesting deck. Both of the interesting decks facing off against each other, unfortunately. And that's one that we saw on stream also. Something that's based around like the Triple Strike Frost, and obviously has the whole red package and stuff like that. And then on that same bracket, on the other side of the bracket, in that same part, we have Oscar Perez Elias making another showing at a super release playing Super Saiyan 3 Monkeys. Then him facing off against Justin Rios playing U7 Frieza. Then on the other side of the bracket, we have Andrew Calderon playing Gabriel Alonso, which we have right here on feature. And then Alejandro Mena versus Andrew Duvall from PPG as well. Alejandro Mena playing that Super Saiyan 3 Monkey, and Andrew Duvall playing that U7 Frieza. So we have not as much variety as the last super release. I mean, we have 6 Super Saiyan 3 decks and 2 U7 decks. So not too much variety. Nothing too crazy going on here. But there's a lot of shells that are different. And we're going to see exactly what the shells look like once we post those top 8 decks to our, I think our basic level Patreon subscribers. All you got to do is commit to the PPG Enthusiast tier level, which is about $5 or more per month, right? We only have a few patrons at that level. We have the most patrons at PPG Pro, which gives you probably the most amount of value for that money. But all you got to do is be a PPG enthusiast on Patreon, and you'll get access to these top 8 deck lists just so that you guys can analyze them and see exactly what these pros are thinking leading up to Gen Con, and what kind of differences, small little subtle differences that they've been making as far as tech choices, side deck choices. You've already seen a lot of them on stream, but you're going to see even more, if you subscribe to that tier level. And of course, it will help our players and our future content creation as we go across the East Coast and host the PPG Bandai Dragon Ball Super National Championship Regionals, where you can get your invite to the National Championship happening in November, hosted by ARG. So that's going to be a really fun time. It's going to a good cause, and you're getting some of the best advice from some of the best players in the game. I mean, what else could you want, And of course, I have Fernando Fuentes here joining me, former Force of Will professional, probably the most accolades in that game. I mean, he's also done something in Dragon Ball. What'd you make in Orlando? You made top 16 or something?
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Fernando Fuentes. It's good to meet you. I'm a local, and I like creating content the most. So this is my first commentating experience. I hope that I can do a good job for you guys. And yeah, like George was mentioning, my only DBS regional tournament. I got top 16 in it. Back in the early days of the Mecha Frieza formats. Um, I love formats when they're just starting up, getting to research all the cards. That's my thing, deck building. Um, I wanted to mention some piggyback of what George was saying. Basically, right now you see the format developing. We don't have that much variation. A lot of SS3 Goku, but in those decks there's subtle differences in terms of deck choices and card ratios that will, in the long run, make a significant impact on these players, like choices in game and things like that. So definitely an exciting format moving forward, and you can see it taking shape here right now. Like you're saying, if you subscribe to our content, it'll definitely help us create content and our players travel around the United States. So make sure to do that. Check these deck lists out and see the developing format.
Yeah, and it's really cool because you get a lot out of. I mean, we have different tiers of stuff. I mean, you can get anything from as low as just being in the Discord channel, and seeing some exclusive content, to as high as just having one of these elite memberships where you have a one-on-one relationship or with each of the PBG pros, whichever one you want. So if you want to go to a deck building session with our best deck builder and Chrisabella, you can do that. If you want to go with one of our best technical gameplay players in Justin Rios, you can do that. If you want to go and just talk a little bit more about how to act in game, I think Peter Katani has the best in game attitude. He's not too poker facish. Sometimes he does wear his emotions on his sleeve, but he keeps it cool and he keeps it professional. And I think he plays very well. So he's a great all around player. So you have so many different choices to pick from, but as of now, we only have a few of those spots available, and they're already gone. The next one over is the PPG Honored for $150 or more a month, and that picks a pro and gives you an extra session a month with a pro tutoring with the pro of your choice. So it's a little bit step down from the PPG Elite, but it's still something that we have, a few spots available. That will give you that extra push. Gabriel's definitely needed that, I feel like, and he's gotten to that point where he feels a lot more comfortable. He has access to our decks. He has access to any type of deck critique. Anything that he ever wants, he pretty much has this on speed dial. So he's somebody who's definitely already directly benefiting from this, and we hope to see him continue to thrive and have that hunger to start becoming one of the top elite players in this game. Now that he's going to start traveling and stuff like that, it's definitely something that he can test his skill not only against the region or the local scene, but against the grand scheme, the national players, the ones that you see, Danny Hype. Our players, a lot of the KTM players, John Tata, Colby Garish, all these amazing players that we have in the game. That's where your skill is really going to get tested. But this is a good second because you're against some of the best players in the world already at your locals, and you really can't say that for a lot of places. Yeah, this top cut is really insane. And imagine if Peter played. Imagine if Abella played. I mean, it would have been even harder to get there.
Yeah, definitely PPG, one of the best locals, if not the best locals. And we'll see how Gabriel Alonso can do here. I know him personally. He's aspiring to become a future pro, and he's doing a great job getting to this top eight. One of the best top eights I've ever seen here at PBG, and it's super exciting to see him grow and develop. Um, and he has one of the greatest challenges yet. Andrew Calderon, uh, playing one of my favorite decks ever. Basically the new Frieza GT Menace, instead in Goku SS3 form. Just another deck that's trying to abuse the Awakening Turn 1 mechanic, this time with a much more aggressive 1-drop in the form of the new Trunks that was released in set 4. And it just applies so much pressure in the early game with early game crits, and then finishes you off with a massive triple striker. Definitely a super exciting deck to watch when it goes off, and we'll see how the monkeys can deal with that aggressive power.
Yeah, this is actually a really interesting matchup to see, and this almost reminds me of like what the Cross World Super Release kind of looked like. We had the GT deck, which everyone was so like super scared about. It was Mecha GT, right? So it replaced Mecha, but with Super Saiyan 3. Same exact thing that we have now. We have the GT deck again, back in full force with some new toys, and then we got Apes, back with yeah, I want to say the same amount of new toys. I mean, you got Bardock and you have Successor, yeah. So both decks getting a few good cards, not too many, but they get like 2 to 3 different cards to make them just a little bit more over the top. And it's crazy to see the same two decks at the top at the beginning of the format, but then we saw how the format ended up developing, and it wasn't that GT very fast fell off. People saw what they needed to do. They adapted. They knew what was coming. They were main decking Yajirobis, blockers, Mafubas, things like that, and it was adaptations like that that you have to make once you see what the most popular choices are at the initial state of the game, because the meta is definitely by no means even close to being finalized. It's just got this is in phase one, so now you're going to go into phase two, three, and whether that permits for more leaders or leaders like this have something done to it, we'll see. Because this looks kind of like the same thing what happened when Mecha Frieza was out. Mecha Frieza was out, and it claimed I think 5 or 6 of the top spots at our super release. Granted, Mass Saiyan ended up winning the whole thing, and Peter Katani, but it was just still something that was very, very prevalent. It wasn't oppressive, but it was something that was clearly the best choice, and that's what you don't want to you don't want the game to create, and that's why something was done about Mecha, because it was like clearly the best deck, like not even close. So you just had to either play a hard counter to it or just play it. So Andrew Calderon though is going to go into a chain attack Zeno play, and he's gonna do that while at 3 life. So not so bad. 3 life is not the worst to do that at. So he's gonna gain a little bit of advantage out of that, and like we said, Zeno very 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 good against this ape deck, especially because the ape deck requires so much setup. So what like Zeno going forward, do you see it as like a mainstay in any type of like red deck now to combat like the heavy popularity of these ape decks?
Absolutely. So, Zeno has shown how dominant he can be in previous rounds here, and right now, giving Andrew Calderon the chance to basically gain the lead. Uh, Andrew was in a very serious hole when his turn started, down against 3 apes, and now all of a sudden he has a full tempo of the game, of 1500 on board, ready to attack. His leader's flipping, so you can see how Zeno has given him the full advantage. Something to note, going back to the Mecha Frieza point, what you see that is very powerful in the early formats during release tournaments in particular is Awakening turn one, early awakening, the ability to use mana on both your and your opponent's turn, as mana is one of the limiting factors in the game. With the Mega Frieza, you could use it by you could abuse mana by taking a life, and now with the SS3 effect of untapping 3 mana, so you can see how mana abuse and getting access to your leader's flip side is something very powerful in every single format. So I want to very interested to see how Gabriel Alonso proceeds from here, because what it matters a lot that Andrew Zenos him, but it does take resources to do so. And technically, the person that gets to make the first play after a Zeno play is the person getting Zeno. In this case, Gabriel Alonso. So here you see, for example, the that same thing I was just mentioning. He gets to march first. So there were 3 apes before, and now there's going to be 2 apes again. So maybe the first Zeno is not enough to outright win the game, but it puts Andrew in a good position. and I'm very interested to see how Gabriel can come back from it. Um, I would say the game is relatively close. The only difference being that being at 3 life does matter a lot. It's radically different from 4. Four feels a lot safer. Um, we'll see if that comes into play. At the forefront of Andrew Calderon's hand, he has a negate creature. Uh, and that might come into play against this double striking ape this turn. We'll see if he wants to do that. Um,
Yeah, so we're gonna see exactly how Gabriel comes back from a Zeno. Zeno is just very, very powerful. Like I said, against Apes, but Apes does have a bounce back to it. That's the beauty of Apes and March of the Great Apes in particular. Because if you don't resolve a March of the Great Apes, if you don't resolve one yet, or maybe you resolve one and you still have access to a second one after the Zeno, that's something that can almost like wipe out the effects of the Zeno and just make it so that it didn't even like it feels like it didn't even happen. Just because of the extra netting 2 cards that March turning immediately into 2 new cards, and then you getting 2 very big creatures on board. That Planet Vegeta stays on board. A lot of people don't know that, or a lot of people like shuffle it back into their deck sometimes. But yeah, it does not nothing or discards it or something. No, Planet Vegeta actually stays on board no matter what. So even Zeno cannot rid the field of Planet Vegeta, which is actually super super relevant in making the comeback to the Chain Attack Zeno. Because without it, it would just be almost impossible. I feel like to come back, but um, it's crazy how you know how many I mean, how much you can come back from a card like Zeno just by having something like, a March of the Great Apes.
so certainly, and that's something that I wanted to speak to. Basically, the GT deck and the A deck are very similar in terms of what they do, but they're for different like styles of players. So the GT deck is significantly more aggressive, maybe a little bit less consistent, but when it goes off, it has a higher ceiling of power and it can pull off victories from certain situations where other decks might not be able to. The Ape deck, on the other hand, is more consistent and a little less power, but it can have a much more grindy game, and it itself can come back from different situations that the GT deck wouldn't be able to. Um, so it's interesting to see how Andrew. I know him personally. I know that he likes that aggressive playstyle. He likes those really impactful turn one openings. So that's probably why he leaned towards something like the GT deck, and Gabriel Alonso here preferring the consistency. Being a release tournament, you want to be prepared for everything, and monkeys are just good against everything across the field. So
All right, so Andrew's actually at 1 here against Gabriel Alonso's 4. And we're going to see Gabriel push here and try to go in with an Explosive Spirit on Goku. Using the ability, he does have the ability. Oh, he's comboing with that? Okay, I'm sorry. So he's actually comboing with it. That's really weird. Andrew's got triple boost attack Piccolo. Wow. That was insane. Gabriel trying to make that finishing push to finish off Andrew, but not being able to here. Gabriel's going to be able to untap his energies, going to be able to untap his monkeys, and try to see if he can survive here. Chances are pretty high, I think, survival rate this turn. It really just depends. That was a risky. I think that was a risky charge right there. The Saiyan Kaba, because he can use it. Right now in the position that Andrew's in. Oh well, I'm sorry. Andrew's at 1, so that Kaba actually has no relevance to him. But and there is no event cards in his hand, and there's no double overwhelm cards. So yeah, that would actually be the best charge in his hand. But Why I was saying Kaba would have been great if he was at more than one life is because then he can two shot Gabriel with two double strikes. The only problem is that Gabriel has two monkeys here that are going to be able to block whatever Andrew's actually going to go and try to present Gabriel with. So he does have options as to what to do. The thing is, Andrew does have a topo here. So Andrew, by swinging with the topo, he can actually try to defer one of the blockers from Gabriel. If Gabriel blocks here, then he can actually pump into the topo, take down the monkey, and get another attack. And I don't think Gabriel wants to risk that, especially because he dedicated so many cards already to trying to kill Gabriel. I mean, to trying to kill Andrew. And Gabriel's only sitting with two cards in hand. So I would think that topo would go through, and then triple strike Goku would have been able to finish him off. But it looks like Andrew is going to go with the chain attack Trunks play into the determined Son Goku, and we're going to see exactly what Gabriel does here. I think Andrew's attacking with the chain attack Trunks into a monkey. I'm not sure exactly if that would be the correct play or not, but
So right now, what Andrew wants to do, Gary Alonso has very few cards left in hand after that all-in failed, which is actually pretty masterful from Andrew Calderon because he tapped himself low to one energy left, and Gabriel Alonso thought that being SS3 GT having so many 1Ks. That Andrew Calderon might be in a position of weakness, but there you saw three super combos. Uh, Basically, I don't know where letting Andrew Calderon survive into his turn, and now he has full tempo of the game. But the reason why he wants to force Gabriel to block with these apes and take them out, as opposed to maybe attacking the life, is because since Gabriel has so few cards left in his hand, if he takes away the threats left on board, he can then try to generate critical attacks to Gabriel's life, allowing him to put those life points in the discard pile, and so therefore allowing Gabriel to not have any more outs. So that's what he's trying to do right now. You always want to try to attack your opponent's life with someone with critical, so that they do not gain more options from their life. And doing so while the opponent as is at such low cards in his hand, like Gabriel is right now, um, could just straight up win the game. But so and there you saw an example of it. He had the Topo and he had the Zeno to attack with, but he chose not to not let Gabriel gain any sort of card advantage.
yeah, so we're gonna see Andrew here try to grind out that four life. It's gonna be really, really, really hard. I'm not gonna lie. I think the only problem is here Andrew does only have three energy left. If he no, I'm sorry, does he have four? That's a fourth one, right? Okay, so he does have four energy left, so he might actually still be in an okay spot. The only thing is he attacked with that determined Son Goku, so that tells you that he doesn't have or he didn't choose to go for the line where you can go into the 5-drop and then go into the triple flash. So that might be a little bit worrisome, but Andrew still does have the play here that he can evolve his chain attack into another chain attack and then go into a Zeno if he really wants to. So, but like we said, Gabriel committed so much last turn that even Zenoing him here is still netting him a card because he's losing two monkeys on board and the two cards in his hand, but he's gaining back five. So how good is that really? Probably not that good, especially if Gabriel is going to defend his life here. If maybe for some reason or some way that Andrew gets Gabriel down to maybe like two or something and then chain attack Xenos him, that would be great. But yeah, he just played a Topo. He hard casted a Topo for 2 red energy because Topo decreases its cost by 2 if both or one of 2 leaders are awakened. So he's going to go ahead and hard cast a Topo. He knows the Topo. Yeah, oh man, another Topo. Jesus Christ. So 3 Topos down on board, and Gabriel has both of his apes tapped.
There's a chance here. So there's definitely an opening here. Andrew Calderon is representing 20k worth of power on board alone, and he has 4 cards in hand. But Gabriel Alonso has no other option but to go for it, so he's going to try and see if he can stabilize a little bit of this board that's getting away from him. With such low resources, it's very difficult, but if the apes can come back from this, they can come back from anything. Uh, It's very interesting how Andrew. I'm wondering how many combo pieces he had in his hand last turn to do the GT, the big play into the 30k triple striker. I do not believe he had it available to him. That's why he passed turn. Um, so right now we're gonna see if he lets this attack go through. Definitely has to be careful because if he uses too many resources from his hand, any surprise scientist fool could kill him like from nothing. So he has to be very careful. Uh, Gabriel, even at low resources, is doing a very good job of representing that he could have that scientist food, but he does not. Ends up just
Wow, and Andrew survives yet another turn at 1 life. And Gabriel really can't do much because he's like so like drawn back on cards from trying to go in on that turn. I don't even know if it was maybe even correct to go in on that turn, but because he chose to, he dedicated a lot of resources and doesn't have enough to push through what Andrew has already accumulated in his hand. So it's putting Andrew here in the driver's seat now with riding on the back of a scientist Fu, that he definitely gets some type of upper hand on his turn, especially since he's given essentially another life to try to kill Gabriel. But Gabriel still have 4, so this can easily swing from Gabriel only having what, 1 card in hand or no cards in hand. I think he threw his last card in hand. Yeah, so Gabriel can easily go from 0 cards in hand to 4 cards in hand, 5 cards in hand next turn because he can take 3 life, he can take his leader swing, and he can get his draw for turn. So he's definitely not out of it. It looks really bad right now, but Andrew has to attack his opponent. That's the only way that he's gonna even like remotely win. So he's not completely out of it. He's at an unfavorable position now, but that's the beauty of Dragon Ball. There is comebacks.
and in this case, I don't know why Andrew Calderon is hesitating so much. He has such an overwhelming advantage. He has to go like push this advantage at some point. And from that scientist Fu, he actually drew the triple strike Goku. I believe he has the entire chain in his hand, so he has a very real possibility of killing Gabriel here. Um, like without even giving him that many resources. And with 0 cards in Gabriel's hand, it should just be cleanup duty here at this point for Andrew. Um, I want to see him not hesitate so much and just go for the kill with these topos. So we're seeing him. He's just. I guess in this situation, you want to make 100% sure. You know the game looks pretty cleaned up at this point. You just don't want to make any technical mistakes. That's something veteran players like Andrew would be really careful to do. Once a game is so favorable for you in a stage like this, you don't want to give any amount of advantage to your opponent to try to come back. So Gabriel, I think, is pondering whether or not he wants to block with one of his monkeys or just take the critical damage. Honestly, take it. It's almost the same thing here. I think blocking is correct. Yeah, and you see him do it there.
Yeah, you definitely want to avoid going to 3 here on the off chance that Andrew does play that triple strike, that triple flash. Goku. Being at 3 is pretty much almost being at like 2 normally in like real games where you're just like, damn, scientist Fu can come down at any time and kill me. This one takes a little bit more commitment, but it's still something that is prevalent and can happen. So you definitely want to the triple flash is yeah, no, that card's insane because like we said earlier in the stream, it has deflect. It has the ability of not being countered if it's a certain attack. All you need is 2 combination. Yeah, you need 40k or more attack for it to not to be negated, and it draws you 2 on the EX evolve. That's so insane. So, and it requires 0 cards from your hand. So you don't even have to have cards to discard. I don't know why. Don't ask me, but a super duper powerful card, and it's something that Gabriel I'm sure knows because Gabriel, we were playtesting the GT deck last night, and I didn't think that he would go with Apes. Honestly, I thought he was going to go with the GT deck because he felt like a little bit more comfortable. He was able to get more games off of me with the GT deck than the Ape deck. To be fair, I think I only played him like a match with with the Apes, and then a few matches with the GT deck. So but it's something that I guess he felt most comfortable going into. Oh, he can't flute that GT Goku. Can you go let him know? You can't flute the GT Goku. All right, easy fixed here. So Flute would resolve with no target, no draw. So he puts back the card that he drew with the Super Saiyan 3 Goku, and that's a warning on the player for playing that. So pretty fixable, pretty easy. Yeah, Flute, once again, it's something that can only target something that's 3 or less. And the Goku is technically a 3 drop, but the effect makes it a 5 drop on board, I believe, and in hand. It's probably just on board. But yeah.
And the cards are brand new.
Yeah, no. Even after I read Flute and I did that whole Scientist Fu back to trying to put like Scientist Fu back into my hand, I tried to then proceed to Flute a Goku back into my opponent's hand, but they were at 4, so it was a 5. That's still something that can be made pretty easy. So it doesn't have the chance to retarget something with a Flute. He pretty much just threw away a Flute. Yeah, exactly. He threw away a Flute and he wasn't able to draw a card. So
Should be able to clean up from here still, but he's at 1.
yeah. Oh, Gabriel's at 1. Gabriel finally at 1, but he has more cards to do with. He has more cards to deal with now. So
I'm interested to see where things go from here because Andrew ended up not killing Gabriel that turn, to much of my surprise, and now he has 3 cards in hand to play with, and he might be able to make a comeback from this. Andrew committed a lot of his combo power on board to those previous attacks, so now he might have very little left. And from what I can see, I think Gabriel has Planet Vegeta to go get himself a threat, and he might even have a Scientist Fu. Um, Scientist Fu again, like a colossal part of the format, and I think Gabriel has a very good chance of coming back into this.
all right, so Gabriel loses game 1 to Andrew Caldero's GT deck, and I think it was that turn where Gabriel decided to go all in, and really did not need to go all in. I don't believe so. I felt like he saw an opening, and he didn't really respect Andrew's hand size or Andrew's resources, and he had a decent amount from what I saw from the combo. And then after the combo, like sometimes it's okay to go in all out that go in like that when you know you're going to be taking like 5 6 of your opponent's cards and they had like 7 8, and then you're going to drop them to like 1 or 2 cards in hand. Then that's a scenario where I'm just like, okay, well, I'm going to trade all these cards for all these cards, right? You start doing the math and you're like, well, my opponent has to do this for them not to die. Is it worth me doing this? Because then I'd be pretty much like gutting my own resources for my opponent. And then Andrew was smart enough to not hit Gabriel or anything from 4 life. That one turn that Andrew, like, he survived at 1, Gabriel was at 4, and then it went to Andrew's turn, and then Gabriel was still at 4, and yeah, exactly. So because your opponent already exhausted the resources, why give them more cards? So exactly, they have nothing, so there's no reason. At that point, he could have just probably been better. I think he only attacked with the Determined Sun Goku, which is fine because not only is it critical, but which is good. That card being critical is just like I don't know why it has critical. Like it's just so much better now. I mean, it's still it's something that you need to hard cast for 3, which is still a lot in this day and age, which is crazy. But um, it's a main target for the triple flash to go over. Not the only target now. It's now an additional target. It has critical, and it's just a powerful card overall. It can't be fluted. That's one of the most powerful things. Like, I'm sure Andrew would have loved to flute it, or Gabriel would have loved, be able to. If you had flute, fluting that card, I think feels maybe the best if you're on the opposite side. Not using flute on your own cards like a lot of people are used to. Yeah, then it really just breaks your setup. So, that's probably one of the reasons why it has that clause. But anyways, that was pretty close, but like I said, like the exhausting your opponent's resources and kind of just like trying to build up. GT has like such a powerful way of coming back and I think that Zeno was a huge part of that win. Like I said, Zeno against Apes. If your opponent doesn't have isn't quick to get back on their feet, then that can really easily just take a game from somebody who had it in the bag, which I think Gabriel did.
Yeah, Gabriel during the early turns in the game, he had three monkeys. He had full priority over that game to just close it out, and the Zeno was the most critical point in the game. It just got Andrew back from basically close to losing. That's something that I know Gabriel was trying to figure out to see how well can Zeno be in the match, and how well can the Apes come back from it. And we're seeing here, even after he had a march to answer the first Zeno, Andrew Calderon had enough of the topos to stabilize and just do his typical GT plays, and he ended up pulling that game out. Honestly, Gabriel going all in on that one attack, definitely debatable because he had a semblance of a board, and but I can understand why he did so. I mean, Andrew was tapped down low. Maybe he felt, as long as he doesn't have super combos, I can end the game right here and now. But that's something you always have to play around. You always have to, in a way, assume that your opponent has at least one or two of those in a hand that was eight or nine cards like Andrews was. So, close game overall, and I want to see how the players adapt with sideboards for game 2 and 3. The matchup changes a lot at this point. They're getting ready for game 2 here, just drawing their opening hands. And what's going to be critical here too is to see if either player opens up with their non-main color as their mana from their SS3 effect. That's the one thing that neither player can control. That goes into deck building. However, many, for example, in the ape deck, however, many cards that are not yellow in their deck could flip over from their life on turn one, and that could limit if they can awaken turn one, for example, or many other plays like that. So definitely want to see if either player hits off color here, and Gabe hits 1 out of 2 yellow, so just passes turn. We'll see how Andrew can do. That's the only flaw that the S3 leader has, just that randomness at the beginning of the game. But we can see here Andrew Calderon masterfully avoids hitting anything off color there, and we're gonna see how his turn one resolves.
Yeah, we're definitely going to see exactly. Gabriel didn't have the best of starts. I think he definitely would have liked a double yellow start, and that's the only drawback to playing cards like Raging Attacker Son Gohan. And you have to play Piccolo, so that's not even really a flaw. I mean, that's not something that you can control. But Raging Attacker Son Gohan is definitely something that you can control. You don't need it in the deck, but it's something that I think Gabriel made the choice that he felt comfortable with, and it's something that he might regret. He might not. We'll see. But an explosive sun life needs to go up. But we'll see exactly if that ends up being something that helps him out, or something that just cripples his play, or just something that's more of a handicap than anything else. But from the sideboard, from Gabriel Alonso, we do have some different ways that he can go here. It looks like he did side in those Raging Spirit Sun Gohans, which don't seem too good against the GT deck. Like I said, you don't need to combo too much out of their plays. You just need to know when to be set up, and you need to have those monkeys really stick on board. Mass Saiyan, he also has access to, which actually seems a little bit better. The Mass Saiyan and Dimensional Banisher Foos are actually really good out of the sideboard against Apes, especially because the Ape deck, I'm sorry, against GT. Dimensional Banisher Fu and the Mass Saiyan are good against GT because they do have a lot of one drops. They usually stick a lot of one drops on board. And the triple attack, sure, you might be able to block it one time with one of the apes, but then how do you get rid of that card? You don't want to ever uptrade. So it's a card, once it sticks for Andrew, it's very hard to get off the board. Apes don't have too much removal, so having a Dimensional Banisher Fu at his disposal is something that is mandatory. It's also really good to try to get that 3-drop out board. Having that 3-drop just staring you in the face and being like, I could become a triple flash, that is just really, really annoying, and something that you don't want to have out on the board. Crusher Ball, the thing is, it has deflect. The triple flash has deflect, but Crusher Ball doesn't seem like the worst option to come in. Yeah, but I think it is the Crusher Ball I would still like over the Nimbus in the main board against GT, though. I think. I think, yeah, Nimbus is definitely bad against GT because they don't need a lot of. I mean, they don't need a lot of attacks. They can have a lot of attackers. They can have like a Kaba. They can have a Trunks and a Scientist Fu. That's 3 energy right there. And then if you still have another 3 energy, then you might be facing down a Determined Sun Gohan or something of the like. But it's not something that if they have on board, it's just like ridiculous. But that's why Flying Nimbus. I don't even think like to this time is just that great right now. Yeah, hopefully he didn't. Hopefully he sided them out. And then the last thing that he has in the option is Haru Haru Attacker Majin against Yellow Deck, so obviously it's not relevant here. And he has the Explosive Sun Goku, the third copy in the sideboard as well, which doesn't seem so bad. It actually seems really good in this matchup, especially if they attack with the Triple Flash. You play the Explosive Sun Goku, and you get rid of a threat. It's almost like a Dimensional Banisher Fu, but the Fu will it's only 1 energy, and you need 5 in the yard. So, and the explosives on Goku doesn't really matter how many you have in the yard. It's just something that will eventually it can get rid of something, and then on top of that, provide defense when you really need to stop the triple strike.
I want to say it again. The dimensional Fu is definitely critical. In not just these matchups, this format as a whole. Something that you'll probably see is Gabriel's gonna stray away from the 5-drop ape, unless he has a very good opportunity to play it onto the field, in favor of marching earlier on in the game. If he chooses to do that and his monkeys do not have a barrier, then dimensional food from both sides would be really efficient. So there you see copies of Flying Nimbus. I suspect he doesn't have all 4, but he's opted in for a few, maybe to mitigate. Even the early game, Andrew can have a few attacks, so just to avoid some sort of really bad early game, he has a few copies left. I'm sure he trimmed on a few of those though. And we see here, and just playing a 3-drop. There is the 3-drop we've all been talking about. 15 critical, so this attack is very free. It will take either the king on board, which I doubt because he still wants the play the option to evolve it. So it might just take a negate here. He's considering it greatly, shuffling it in his hand. And there you go. He's going to negate it. So there you see, if he did not have critical, definitely a negate would not have happened there. He might have even Gabriel might have even taken the life point of damage, but my personal favorite keyword for sure. Such a powerful ability. So
Yeah, so we'll see exactly what develops here. What?
He could evolve or he could march.
Yeah, he can evolve or march here, so he can. I think I would go with the evolve. Honestly,
Depends on how much pressure he wants.
yeah. The thing is, the evolve is just so powerful. You don't want to like stray too much away from it, especially when you have the opening to do it. I think it's still something that's fine to do. He could actually just evolve and planet here if he has planet, which I think would be the most efficient use of his mana for the turn.
Even if it took a Nimbus, do you agree with Andrew attacking?
If Andrew attacks,
Yeah, like Andrew last turn attacked with his 3-drop Goku. And sometimes you want to keep that card safe from getting attacked back. But we saw that he pretty loosely swung at Gabriel last turn, and it took a negate. But I don't know if he wants to expend so many resources on defending the 3-drop. So it was pretty interesting to see him attack with it because it's such a pivotal part of him evolving into his bigger drops. So I'm curious to see if it survives the turn. Gabriel has, like George was saying, multiple options: March or the evolve. The evolve seems very good here, considering that once the 25,000, excuse me, is on board, it can aggress the 3-drop and most likely kill it. I mean, Andrew has to expend so many cards to defend it, and Gabriel says, "I'm not even gonna worry about it. I'm just going to get it out of here 100% by getting rid of it." And now he has a clear line of sight at Andrew's life. So let me see.
yeah. So it does look like Gabriel took that opportunity to swing at the Determined Sun Gohan, which I don't know. Like you said, I don't know if in Andrew's position that he should have attacked with the Determined Sun Goku. Just having it, in active mode, creates so much pressure on the opponent that you pretty much put Gabriel on better have the Dimensional Breaker Fu. and he kind of just gave Gabriel the out to it by being able to attack with a leader. It's good because it drew out a card from Andrew, but at that point, if you had the removal spell for the Determined Son Goku, I think he should have just directed all his attacks that turn to Andrew's life because Andrew's at 4. You really kind of I don't know if attacking the Determined Son Goku is fine. There, I mean. I kind of get it. I can see his reasoning not to. If he can get rid of it on leader swing, then more power to him. I mean, like then he gets to save the food for something else. But because he's playing multiple overwhelm cards, I don't know. This also depends on how many overwhelm cards he actually boarded in, because he could have easily brought in all three foos and both Massaians. Or and all three Massaians, or he could have just brought in the three foos. Like if you brought in both, then once you're at 5, you want to immediately drop an overwhelm guy. You don't want to ever overwhelm. You don't want to like overwhelm 7 cards or 8 cards. You want to overwhelm exactly 5, especially when you have multiple, because you just want to like efficiently play your cards.
Speaking to what cards Gabriel Alonso boarded in, it's almost often difficult for the SS3 deck to board in too many uh, of the overarm cards simply because what happens if they flip it on the turn one? They're very conscious about that. It's one of the only ways that the SS3 decks can fall behind is if they open up two off-color cards. So very conscious of what he has to board in. Also, the ape deck is so concise in its game plan. It only has one strategy: put the apes on board. If it dilutes that by adding non-ape cards into the deck, it can be very difficult to carry out the regular game plan. So that's what makes game 2 and 3 very interesting for both these players. They both have the same deck building limits, and they're both trying to play around what potentially each other is doing. And Gabriel so far much better than in game one. Honestly, that Dimensional Fu took away some of the pressure that Andrew Calderon was building up. You can see that he spent his entire turn playing that 3 drop, and it's died rather easily. So we'll see here what Andrew Calderon can summon up. And from an empty board, it might seem like the GT deck can't really create anything, but from the new set, the 4 drop Goku that untaps an energy once it's summoned, it's a 4 drop. He actually has it in the forefront of his hand right now. With that, he is able to go with just 4 mana into the triple flash Goku, and draw 3 cards in the process. So definitely one of the strongest chains in the deck, and he has the ability to do it right now. I I want to see Gabriel really, really defend this 4th life, because once he's at 3, he could die instantly. So that's why we see him pausing here. He's choosing how to defend. He can either use the GT Goku that acts like a super combo, or trade the card on his board. He decides the former, and here goes the play we were mentioning before. Or no, wait. Here we have hit. Gabriel Alonso is going to be forced to reveal his hand, and Andrew Calderon is going to take 2 cards from it. Normally, we see this hit played against the U7 combo Frieza in order to stop them from going off on their turn 4 and or 5, but Andrew saw that it's good enough to even bring in against Apes. It can be very good when your opponent's going into their turn 4 and you want to stop them from marching. Let's say Gabriel Alonso had uh, less than an adequate amount of apes in his hand. He Andrew could be able to disrupt the March of the Great Apes altogether. We see an abundance of apes in Gabriel's hand, but and also forcing out Nimbus here. So that hit actually did a significant amount of work, taking away the, I believe, critical strikers.
Yeah, no, that hit was huge, and I don't know exactly how. I don't know about the choices. I mean, Gabriel had 4 apes in hand, so it didn't matter if Andrew hit 2 apes, because Gabriel can still resolve the march for 2 apes. So I think Andrew might have been a little bit better off just hitting the super combos from Gabriel's hand, just because it's just something that Gabriel won't be able to use if he were to, like, if he didn't have the negate and he attacked with a hit. You can do something about that. It's just something that like Gabriel, whether he has, as long as he has a minimum of two apes, it actually doesn't matter. Like even if his hand was like full of apes, like why would you take apes? You know, I think the best thing to do there was just take the super combo because he can use the super combo on the offensive on his next turn. You take away that possibility, and then I don't think he even gets it back until the end of like Andrew's turn or something like that. So Andrew can have another turn that he knows Gabriel doesn't have the super combo, and it's just like much better for him to just do that play. I think, but. Regardless, Gabriel's here, able to resolve a march, draw two cards, slam two apes on board. Sure, it's not the two critical apes, but I think it's better to have options. It's better to have a double striker and a critical one than I think summon two critical ones because the double striker can represent lethal if this critical goes through and then the leader attack goes through. And also, like we said before, getting two double strikes in is just pretty much game. So him being able to get a critical hit in and then maybe a double strike and then maybe that last one you're at one life so it doesn't matter, you just kill them type thing, or whatever the case is, you hit them for one, you go to two, and then from two you just Bardock them and then it's game. Or Fu can be another option. If they have negate, you still have another extender there.
No, I mean you're absolutely right. Based on Gabriel's hand of four apes, it was better to take the super combos away. I mean, you can see it happening right now. Gabriel is aggressively using the Gohan to try and gain an advantage off of him. You can see it summoning itself right now, and the rest of his hand looks to just be 10k draw cards. And as you said before, he's using them to kill the hit, and Andrew could have taken that potential away. So we'll see if that comes back to bite him. I don't suspect he's in that bad of a shape though. We did see last turn that he had the full chain of GT in his hand, so it's just a matter of surviving the ape onslaught. This is one of Gabriel's last attacks for the turn, so I really want to see that explosive turn from Andrew. At some point, he should stop playing very passively and just go all out. That's one of the fortes of the deck, and he hasn't done it in this match so far. Um, you can see in his hand he has flute, he has the pan, he has the full chain of GT. I just want to see that huge turn come out from Andrew on the next turn. So we'll see Gabriel's passing turn right now. So that one should not untap, I don't believe. There we go. And I really want to see, this is Andrew's big turn. I want to see something happen. There he has also the ability to chain attack Trunks. Maybe he was playing toward that, letting Gabriel Alonso develop his full board and then chain Trunks he had away. I don't believe he has the Zeno in his hand to go along with it, so he might not be able to do it right now. But either route that he chooses, I want him to see him advance his game state here. Untapping with that hit on board could produce lethal this turn if Gabriel doesn't have something like a Flying Nimbus. Notably, something that Gabriel doesn't have that some of the other competitors have in this tournament right now is the Master Roshi. He's opted for Bulmas, as you can see them in his energy. I can see his deck list right here. He does not play that Master Roshi. And so yeah, he does so for in terms of consistency, but the Master Roshi right now in this format might be a little more powerful. I tend to favor it more, but his deck choice got him into top 8, so definitely Bulma is still powerful for that consistency. Um, and still, what I think Andrew Calderon's doing right now is just playing these fodder cards first so that he can then make his big play, see what Gabriel's doing, see if he blocks with the apes first, so that afterward Andrew can go for his huge play. So, but definitely, Gabriel might not be biting. I don't think he's defending his life with his monkey. And is he taking two here? He's considering it. Definitely, I don't think that blocking with the monkey is the right choice simply because that triple striker can come down from the hand. So Gabriel showing his game knowledge here, saying, "Hey, I know you have the potential to do this, and I'm going to play around it to the best of my ability." So good for him. And Andrew Calderon here attacking with hit, just trying to get a few more resources out of Gabriel to then maybe go off. Gabriel considering how he wants to defend. The camera shaking a little bit there.
Yeah, we're gonna see exactly what can happen here. They're both sitting. Oh, Andrew's sitting at 3 actually. Andrew's sitting at 3. We'll see if he lost. Oh. Justin Rios lost his match against Oscar Perez Elias. A U7 freezes out. Super Saiyan 3 Monkey on to the top 4 in Oscar Perez Alliance. He had another top 4 showing last Super release. So super exciting to see his consistency. And as one of our local players, kind of just grind against some of the biggest names in the game, defeating one of the top 8 players in the world, I think, right now, in Justin Rios. Another strong Magic competitor as well, Proto competitor. Really can't wait to see what he has in store for the future. Unfortunately, Justin's one of the few that will not be in attendance at GenCon. He does have a Pro Tour that he needs to go and attend to. All expense paid trip to Pro Tour. Who knows what? I don't know what it's called, but or where it's at, but I know it's a Pro Tour. He told me about it. He was kind of sad about it because he enjoys this game a lot more than Magic, despite him making like thousands of dollars more in Magic. So that really goes to show the potential of this game, and I think how much if people give it a try, even though other games might have better pricing or whatever the case is, like you just get so much more satisfaction out of playing this game. I feel like over any other game, at least for me, and I know it's the same for a lot of other people that because they do come from other games, so they have played other games before. They know exactly what we're at. So it's just once you play, you kind of know. You're just like, oh man, the decision making level very very high. What you can do, what you can't do. I mean, like a lot of people give this game a hard time sometimes because they're like, oh man, yeah, because it's like why can I do all these unfair things? I mean, it's not too unfair. I think every deck has the same potential to do unfair things. Sure, obviously Super Saiyan 3 a little bit more of an edge at doing unfair things, but the core isn't the same. The core, it's not like everyone's playing. We don't have like 10 mirror matches here. I mean, like this is not exactly what's happening. So, yeah, everybody has their own color. Everybody has their own little thing that you can do. The thing is that this leader lets you do things a little bit more. I mean, I think what we can all agree on is if your leader nets some type of energy, I think it just pushes it a little bit more over the top, and it gives it a little bit more edge in what it wants to do. But regardless, very fun game, very fun format. We've already been seeing multiple people applaud the format after being very hesitant of it. We saw last time everybody was very hesitant about Mecha Frieza leading into Crossworlds, and then they were like, "Oh no, this is not acceptable." This one, where we were all hesitant about Super Saiyan 3, and now a lot of people are like, "This is one of the best formats ever." So we're gonna see exactly what it shapes up to be. But I mean, like, there's another big event happening in New York, and we got Harudagon versus Super Saiyan 3. Same, almost the same thing. I mean, Harudagon didn't have any showing here. It was something that I would have played if I were to play in this event, but I figured I'd rather bring commentary and coverage to this event instead of playing in it. But it's something that I definitely would have played. I think Harudagon's a fantastic leader. Sure, it doesn't have any of those energy netting capabilities that Super Saiyan 3 does, but it is good because it puts a strain on your opponent's resources, and I think that's still something that a lot of people don't get. That's very important. It's very valuable to like really restrict what type of resources you give to your opponent or anything like that, because it's just very very powerful. It's underappreciated because people are just used to energy.
Yeah, and to add on to that, honestly, something that as the game develops, players will pick up on is how to value cards and when to, for example, combo in certain situations. That's what gives this game so much depth. Is that two different players of basically equivalent skill level might have different philosophies on if they combo in certain situations, or what cards they really place value on, and obviously we can see it here. So many pros in this top eight just having their own little flavor of color. They might have come to a consensus that SS3 is powerful, but definitely they choose where their strength lies, either in the early game with the GT deck that Andrew has, or more closer to the mid-range deck that Gabriel has. Whatever their flavor is, they have it here, and that's something that you could also come to understand more by joining us at Pro Play Games. uh, our Patreon is essentially, once you sit down, once you talk to some of our players, you could also really learn, how to value certain cards or what really defines a format, things like that. So definitely, I personally want to see how this format develops and how players kind of adapt to their preferences, and if uh, they represent what color they like most. So that's something exciting to see.
I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can go about the format, and sometimes it's very subtle differences, like you said. There's very small things, like maybe the explosive Spirit Sun Goku that Gabriel's playing. Maybe that's the thing that really gives him an edge. It's a card that really outmaneuvers a lot of other cards in battle, not because it's a removal spell, but plays a second part as a barrier blocker, a blocker that can't be interfered with, and something that will give you, yeah, something that will give you for sure life against a deck that's very scary, like Super Saiyan 3 with the triple strike. Like that's something that can just like make it insane. Like something that you can just be like, wow, I can really stop this card from taking all my life, and it's something that my opponent can't interact with. It's something that I can pump some combo into, maybe pressure my opponent. Yeah, it's going to give you a turn 100% just because it has that beautiful line of text and barrier and blocker. So you got it's just very little cards like that. Even in a format where the shell is 40 cards, those last 10 cards in the deck, depending on what you come to expect of the format and what it shapes up to be, those are things that can be the definition between a top 16 finish, top 32 finish, or a first place finish. So that's something that we strive to try to get our guys into, because if the guys that we help out via Patreon do well, then that speaks more volumes than anything, really. It's not really it's more like providing a service and making sure that that service is actually quality and top tier, and it's not like a bunch of filler material, which I see a lot of other people, trying to do this whole thing at the same time and be like, oh yeah, we're doing Patreon now, blah, 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 and it's like one person. And it's just like, how are you doing a Patreon with one person and you're attending to like 10, 20, 30 different people, Like, we have a team, a specialized team of players, and some of the most professional players in the world. And yeah, and it's just in various card games, and we know exactly what to provide, and if people know exactly what they need, that's even better, because then we're like, okay, this is what we're gonna attend to, instead of just being like, here's the curriculum, like in a store setting, school setting, where you're just like, man, school was so pointless, there was no point in me going to this class, I didn't learn anything from here, they were just telling me things that I already knew, and things that don't actually have anything, yeah, any value whatsoever. So that's definitely something that we try to avoid. We try to avoid, like, this is like the same lesson for everyone. No, what are your needs? What do you think you're strong at? What do you think you're weak at? Let's work on the weaknesses, because that's what's going to make you a stronger player, and play on your strengths. So congrats, by the way, on Eric Hill's win. Super release champion, all the way in New York. Fantastic job. Really, like, he played Harudagon and he won a super release. Like, what? That's crazy. Like, congrats to him. Really props. Beat the self-proclaimed god in Anthony Hernandez, and that says a lot, man. The Hill brothers, I think, have been on a whole different mission, and these are guys that put in a lot of work, and they're blessed to have, they're twins, so they literally live with each other and they play sides with each other all the time, and they're very high level players. So it's something that you don't see very often, and you don't have, the luckness of, like, I have a brother, but he doesn't play card games. Like, if he played card games and we lived together, like, imagine how much better you can get. Like, somebody who shares a lot of the same traits and has the same, almost, has similar personalities or whatever, that plays, the same game, and wants to strive to be as competitive as you are. Like that's crazy. So they're in a unique scenario where you can see the hard work pay off, and they won a huge super release in New York, and yeah, congrats to them. And then now we're going to be seeing a lot more players head on over to our stream. Thank you guys for joining us. We're currently in top 8 of a very, very stacked super release tournament with some of the best players all over the world. We had Justin Rios, Alejandro Meta, Juan Brand. We have an up and coming player in Gabriel Alonso, PBG Elite member. Got the most exclusive tier and is getting personal training from each one of us. Just came off a personal training session last night. Yeah, 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 just a few months ago, he wasn't playing at all. Like, I'd first started the game and then kind of got off of it because, he just he didn't have the tools, really. He didn't have the option of being like, how do I get better? Now, with our Patreon just going up like last week, really, we just started the Patreon last week. It gave a lot of people who didn't have a strong local scene or didn't feel like they had the exclusivity of playing against like some of these professional players or getting their one-on-one insight. And now with that option, a Gabriel along with another elite Patreon from Cincinnati, he's like, yeah, there's only like 4 or 8 people in my locals. I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. I feel like I'm stuck because it's the same 4 to 8 people and I'm just winning all the time. Like, yeah, you're winning all the time, but then you go to regional and then you go 0-4, 0-3. You play against these guys that play all the time or just have more information because they don't have to play all the time. They just get the information from the people that play all the time. So that's what kind of benefits it. Like, you don't have to play all the time. That's a common misconception. You need to be in a very favorable position if you don't want to play all the time and be good. And that's what these guys chose to do. They chose to act on it because the opportunity was there.
Also, and also for those people who have the knowledge already and feel like they know the format really well, but they need to improve on their technical work. As we mentioned before, that's also something that PPG provides. Like, if you have the knowledge, but you're missing that, how do I convert that knowledge into game wins at the actual table when you sit down against your opponent? That's something that PPG can provide also. So it's just anywhere that you are in terms of skill level, there's something to gain from PPG. And you can see here the match is over right now.
I believe Andrew won that one, but very good run for Gabriel Alonso playing Super Saiyan 3 Apes. I think the GT Goku deck is, like I said, it's not just an early game deck like it was before, where it's just like turn 2, turn 3, assemble Voltron, kill you. I feel like it's just more of a grindy deck now. You have topos, that are negates. At the beginning on the Super Saiyan 3 deck, you weren't playing any types of negates whatsoever, and now you have topos. You have multiple threats in the form of the trunks. That's critical. You have multiple forms in the threats. Now that you have a second target for the GT cards, you don't just have to rely on Determined Super Saiyan Goku. You have another Goku that can evolve on your one drop Goku, which I think is ridiculous because sure, you need 4 energy, but then it nets you an energy and then you use that energy to evolve into the triple flash. So it kind of just gives you like a whole nother angle and a whole like another playstyle that you don't have to go and be like, let me assemble Voltron, kill you in this like really cheesy way, which I feel like U7 does a lot of the time. Granted, that's like one of their main win cons, but this deck has that. You can see it from Matt. You saw it from Matt earlier. It has that turn 2 kill. It has that turn 2 kill, but at the same time, it does have that resiliency to be able to kill you later on. And this is the only GT deck that we see in top 8 right now. Andrew's the only GT deck to make it. And we have a bunch of monkeys. We have 1, 2, 3. We had 3 monkeys in top 8. One of them just lost in Gabriel Alonso, but Andrew's still in it for GT. I believe Justin just lost to Oscar, so we got a monkey for sure. Do we know the results of the other games so far? Because we had Jonathan Rodriguez and Ronald, and then we have Alejandro versus Andrew. So we got to still find out the results of those.